Alright, let's try to summarize the things that we have learned so far. In Python, first we saw some of the built-in functions. Then you already learned some of the methods. There are different methods for different kind of objects. Now, then we saw how to create a user-defined function. Okay. Now, first we created a very normal user-defined function like this using this def command. Then the name of the function. This is the input parameter, and return. Then something I write, that is the output. Okay. Now this is our normal function. Then we saw something that is in the user defined function. One way can be fixed number of arguments, that the number of arguments that I define here, define inside, I have to, when I call the function, I have to call it with the same number of arguments. Okay, so that is one thing, that is called fixed number of arguments. Now if I want to make it arbitrary number of arguments, I have to do it using this asterisk sign. Then I can provide arbitrary number of arguments here, and we can run our operation inside the way we want. Okay, so this is another way to create user defined function. Okay, now that was the second thing that we saw. The last that we discussed, that is the optional parameter, that is we can provide some optional parameter there. Okay, so when I try to put an optional parameter there, I have to give a defined value there, already defined. Okay, I have to put a value there. I cannot just write case. No, I have to put a default value. Since this is an optional parameter, that means if the user does not provide that value, it will perform operation for this. And user does provide any value, for that value it should perform something different. Okay, now so this was the function that we created. Okay, and we saw how it works. First time I called the function without the case, that is optional parameter, and it is working with the default function. Now when I define case equals to false, that is already defined, that is the default value, it is performing the same. And last we saw when I perform make case equals to true, then it is performing the other operation. Okay, now one thing, if you look here, I have made it case equals to true. Here I wrote it else, that means if I write anything other than true, if I write even 3, it will still perform the same operation. Okay, but if I write it here instead of else, I make it fixed, that if case is true, true. Now if I run it, if we come here, it will not run. Okay, this is going to give an empty output. Okay, so I have to make it true, so you can fix it actually, and this is the better way of writing. You have to fix what the user should give. Okay, let's start on. Okay, so you should fix what the user should give. Okay, now one thing, if you look here, if I do not provide here, what would happen? If I write it like this way, that means I am fixing our function with 2 defined arguments. That means this becomes a compulsory argument, no longer optional. So I hope you got the idea. So I have to define a value, then it becomes an optional parameter. Okay, so I think it is clear for now. Let's take a look at another example. Okay, so I call our function frequency count 2 with case is equals to false. Not the text, I call it with this another variable, that is s. Okay, as you can see, capital W came once, small w came also one, 2 different. Capital A came 1 and small a came once. Now if I do it like this way instead of like this, okay, let's do it something like this way. Case is equals to make true. Okay, now is now you can see the output is changed. W is now 2, small a is now 2. That is the way we defined. Now say for example we want to do something, that is we want to sort this. Okay, and we want to provide another optional parameter that would say whether to sort it in the ascending order or in the descending order. Okay, so we can actually add multiple optional parameter like this way. So let's copy this one, define a new function here. Okay, case equals to false, then provide another. Okay, say for example sort option, sort
is equals to the way we want to sort it. Say for example, I make it by default, I make it D. Okay, that means D is the optional parameter, fixed parameter. Okay, then here inside, before going out, I have to write a command like this: if this sort is D, okay, that means perform the operation in the descending order. I believe you can finish it by yourself. Else, and you provide it like this: if this sort is, say for example, A, that the user gives, if the user gives this way, you have to sort it in the ascending order. Okay, I believe you can fill it out by yourself, and then I provide the output. So when I call it, okay, if the user provides this argument, this D, then it will be sorted one way. If it does not provide, then it will sort it in a different way. Okay, so I hope you got the idea about the user defined functions. Okay, these are three ways. There is another way, that is keyword argument using. I don't want to discuss it. You don't need it for now. Okay. Aside from these built-in function, methods, and user defined function, there are actually much more impressive way to create a function in Python. Okay, so there is a paradigm that is called functional programming paradigm. Functional programming paradigm. So Python actually provides some of the very interesting and very shortcut way to create a function directly. Okay, so let's take a look at some of those things. That is something that is called lambda function. Okay, lambda function. So what is a lambda function? So when we create a lambda function, we don't actually define like this way. We use the def command here, define the way we used to do something in MATLAB. Okay, the same way we used to define user defined function. But when I'm creating this lambda function, we don't do like this. We do perform directly. Okay, the syntax is like this: we write lambda, okay, then we provide the arguments. It can be 1 argument, 2 arguments, 3 arguments, anything. Then we provide this colon, and then we provide the expression. Okay, so the expression can be only be 1. The arguments can be many, but the expression can only be 1. Okay, let's take a look at here. Let's take a look. If I come here, say for example, x is equals to, I write lambda. What is my input parameter? Say for example, I. Okay, what is my expression? What I want to do with I? Say for example, I want to multiply it with 2. Okay, so let's come here. Let's create it here to show you something. So let's write our function here. So this is our variable explorer. Say for example, when I perform this operation, as you can see, x is not appearing here in the variable explorer. If I write y is equals to 3, that means I'm defining a variable. Okay, as you can see, the type is integer and it comes here. But when I define x, it is not in the variable explorer, because x is no longer is not a variable now. When I define like this, x is holding a function. Okay, the function is whatever the input of the function, it should multiply it with 2. Now say how to call it. Say for example, if I perform like this, x of 5, as you can see, it returns 10. That means when I define like this way, so what I wrote here is that x is equals to this. Okay, this was what I wrote. Try to understand. That means this x is holding our function. Okay, the argument I provide I. Okay, and I provide the expression here, multiply it with 2. That was our expression. So when I call a function, I can call it directly with any value. Say for example 5. So when I call it, this argument is this. Okay, so what it will perform, when I call it like this way, it will perform this operation what is given here. That is the operation it is performing. Okay, let's check it again. So let's do it x of 2. It will provide 4. What if we provide multiple arguments? As you can see, this is going to give an error because I have defined our function with one variable, one input argument. Now say for example, do differently. If I provide a list as argument, x of 2, 8, I am providing a list. What is happening? As you can see, when I provide a list, this multiplication side or asterisk, that is actually performing the rep mat operation. Okay, so you can also call it here with, say for example, it will create this operation, same the rep mat operation. Okay, so this way you can define a small function directly. You don't have to go through all this depth and all this trouble to create a function. So when you want to create a very simple shortcut function with one expression, single expression, you can do it very fastly using this lambda operation. Okay, so I hope you got the idea. So let's try to take another example. Let's create another function. Say for example, I have already defined y. x2 is equals to lambda. Let's provide two arguments I comma j. Okay, so what is the perform we want to do? Say we do it I multiplication by j. Okay, let's do something like this, I plus j okay, let's do function like this. So I am taking two arguments now and I have provided relation here. I can provide any relation. So when I call it with, say for example, 2 comma 3, what is happening? So first it is adding, then multiplying with 3, so this is returning 15. Okay, so if I perform this operation, say a list with two inputs, will it work? If you can guess, it will not work because I am providing only one argument, but I need to provide two arguments, so I have to provide two lists. Say for example 0 comma 9. Now as you can see, first this plus sign is actually adding these two lists 2 3 0 9, then this multiplication with 3 creating three different copies of it, the rep mat operation. Okay, so I hope you got the idea how to work with it. You can also provide say for example a conditional statement there as well, like say for example x3 is equals to lambda. Okay, let's write I, then I is greater than 0. So what does it mean? That means whatever the input it, so if I call it with, say for example, -6, it is going to provide this operation I is greater than 0. That means -6 greater than 0, which should return false, so this will return false. So this is a very shortcut way to create a function, the lambda function, and it is actually very widely used in different scenarios that we are going to do next, we are going to see next. So try to practice a little bit. I hope it will be clear.